Hey kids, welcome to the Capital Life Podcast. I am your host, Abby Pagud. This is where we talk about all the things, the good, the bad, and of course, the healthy. And today's episode is called Thank You. And we are doing a very special edition of Keeping It Real with Real People with my very, very, very good friend, Monique Lynelle. I had to say that in a fancy way. I can't get away. Like you're all prim and proper and dressed to the nines on a regular basis, and I'm always just like I feel like a frumpy mess these days.
Oh, no. You're
Thank you
fine.
so much for joining us on the Capital Life. You are a speaker, a coach, an author, an entrepreneur, Miss Extraordinaire. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm going to say, the theme of today's show is let's thank you. And first and foremost, I definitely have to say thank you for your service, because I know you have committed yourself to country, and being a wife of a army, all the things, like Army Ranger, all the different things, all the craziness that you guys go through. It's absolutely insane. I can't express my gratitude even more. So thank you so much for your service. And I'm so glad that you get to be on the episode where we really get to get a little bit more down and dirty about some of the service talk that is not necessarily discussed. But it's not even that. It's like you have also been through a shit ton in your life, even if it has nothing to do with the service. And so, it's like life has hit you in so many different ways. You've been able to overcome so many different things. And I really could not think of anyone better to have on the show when somebody to reflect that they have so much gratitude for their experience that has taught them so much. And that is a very, very, very rare quality.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're amazing. I have to tell the audience that we first met predominantly because we spent time in Costa Rica.
Right.
And we ended up being at a retreat, and my favorite memory of you, and probably something a picture I will have framed to the day I die, is you sitting on a horse in all sequins. And I think all of us got covered by those sequences by the end of the day, even 3 days passed, even after showers.
Yes, the shimmer was real.
It was such a great experience, and it was so it was just really eye-opening for a lot of different opportunities and a lot of clarity for, I think, a lot of us on where we were going or how we wanted to be seen, especially in the year that we're experiencing this year. What were your thoughts about it?
About the whole retreat?
Yeah. This episode of The Capital Life is brought to you by Neumeier Peak Performance Chiropractics. Life's too short to live in pain or settle for the same old boring chiropractic care. Neumeier Peak Performance Chiropractics is there to help you adjust to a pain-free, vibrant lifestyle. This isn't your average chiropractic experience. They blend advanced techniques with personalized care to help you unlock your body's full potential. Say goodbye to aches, stiffness, and discomfort, and say hello to feeling better than ever before. Your journey to peak performance starts here. Before we dive in, did you guys know that we have gift cards for your loved ones? At Capital Health, we pride ourselves in taking care of our people and figured you should too. But sometimes it's a little awkward purchasing that special someone an exercise program to help them tone up their muffin top, or giving them a nutrition consultation to help them get their eating under control. No need to stress. Let the Capital Health gift card handle that for you and let your special someone choose what they need for their health and wellness needs. Please like, share, and rate us on whatever platform you're listening. It's how we start to really spread the message of good in the world that needs it so much right now. If you find this helpful or insightful, don't forget to connect with us on Facebook and YouTube at Capital Health. That's KAPITOL Health. Also, visit us at capitalhealth.com and subscribe to our newsletter and get wicked awesome updates.
So I took every day, one day at a time. And for me, I enjoyed like the sidebar talks. I enjoyed the exercises that you did, that you facilitated, and the some of the exercises just were really needed. The filling up of the cup, I really
Mhm.
thought that was a special moment. Like, we had special moments there. Of course, Costa Rica is beautiful, and we got to see some of the land by getting on the bus when we had to go to different places. But
Right.
I'm glad that we went to the waterfalls, because we were supposed to do something else that day. And yeah,
And
it was
what
supposed
was
to
it
be
we were
like
supposed to do? It wasn't,
ATV or
yeah,
something.
it was like ATVs and stuff like that and racing, which I mean, like, I'm all down for that, but at the same
Yeah,
time, like, everything, we were there during Mercury in retrograde, where that's when communication usually is a little bit of a disconnect. On top of tech goes a little bit like off wire, and then
yeah,
also the other thing that's interesting is during retrograde is a lot of times like things don't go according to plan. Like plans fall through very easily. And I shit you not, that entire trip, it was like almost everything that was it was just it was a cluster. It was a
yeah,
cluster, but it was like, but the energy of the people that wanted to be there, the energy of the people that were really wanting something, it really did create this bond, an unspeakable bond, really. And and I have no experience in any way, shape, or form to serving our country and what that entails. But I would imagine that that experience and some of those bonds is just a tiny little pinch of salt of what you go through when you end up serving for our country and providing service and you're with your brethren, right?
right. Yeah. So, and I was in the army, and so in the army, what I did appreciate about it was the diversity in backgrounds.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because in basic training, there's so many different races of people that you meet. But when you're in a platoon together,
It
when
doesn't
you're in a
matter.
squad together, it doesn't matter. You want that
Yeah.
person to have your back when you're doing those different obstacles and stuff like that. And you learn the importance of a life is to help save one, and you want that other person to feel the same. So
Yeah.
it comes down to survival, like how are we going to do this, right? And you want somebody that will have your back. And then it starts weeding out, what race are you, where are you from,
What class
all of
level?
those
It
things.
doesn't, yeah, like,
It
it
doesn't
does
matter.
not matter.
What matters is we're on the same team now, and we need to fight together to make this work. If not, it could go left really fast.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I appreciated about the army, and being able to see different places, meet different people from different backgrounds, be able to do some of the obstacles that were team building, that help you to learn about. It's like you can't learn it another way. It's like you have to be in it to know that, okay, you need the other to complete this task,
It's
and you can't
interesting.
leave one behind.
It's interesting that you say that because I think some of the number one things, especially for us women, is we end up, and we talked a little bit about this retreat about, like masculine and feminine energy, right? And,
Right,
masculine energy is so much of the doing and the constant, like the orchestration of such and putting together. And there is healthy forms of and there's unhealthy forms of masculine energy. The same goes for when you talk about feminine energy. And feminine energy is so much on being able to receive help, light, love, etc. And so much of that training, you're in this duality of really trying to find the right mix between masculine and feminine energy, especially when you're in the mind of doing something. But it
right,
does teach you that you have to rely on other people outside of yourself. You can't do it all alone. You have to
right,
work together. And it flat out goes down to survival. Like I've always kind of made the comment, when we have like natural disasters, I never, like, knock on wood, I never want people to have to experience natural disasters. But I've always kind of said, like, sometimes I feel like it's God trying to get people in check. Like, we get so much in our minds and judgment and expectations of other people that we have a tendency to like overlook the bigger picture, right?
Right.
And it's like it's almost like, okay, it doesn't matter what your political belief systems are, because that's such a big controversial topic in the world today. On top of, what belief system are you? Are you Christian? Are you Jewish? Are you Muslim? Like, that's a huge another one nugget right now. That's a really big issue. Identity is another issue. Race is another issue. And it's like all these different clusterfucks of subjects end up creating separation and division.
Yes.
And it's like, and when it comes down to it, you have a natural disaster. Nobody gives a shit what, like, a life is a life. And so it's
Right.
like, it doesn't matter if someone's being taken by a flood of water. It's like everybody got to put all hands on deck to get you to where you need to be, because if you don't, someone's life is at hands. And I hate that, really our brethren, our military brethren learn this lesson at such a young time, right? Like it's interesting that the service really recruits an age group to where logic hasn't really fully formed yet, because it doesn't really fully form until 26, 27.
Tell
And
me
like,
about it.
and it's right. And it's like you train these men to push. You train these women, like men and women, not trying to discriminate in any way, shape, or form. I just say men in
Understood.
general, or guys. I remember the generation that says, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And like that, everybody. Like, so, like, but
Yeah, I
today we got to be
understand.
cautious with our words, because we can't hurt
Yeah,
anybody.
I understand. Oh my gosh. So
But it's
what
like,
I want to I'm sorry, where you finish your thought? I want you to go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So
I want to hear what you have to say. I talked already.
it's really funny because like I was into cosmetology before I went to the military. I actually went so that I could get extra money for school because I was already in hair school, and then I was
Yeah.
working 2 jobs, and I was like working on the weekend. I was working this other job. I was married at the time. I was really young. And so I went in when I was 19 so I could finish my cosmetology certification. And some people didn't think that I would make it. Like, you going in the
Hmm.
military, because I'm a girly girl still, but I do rough
Yeah.
stuff. I'm adventurous. I really like the obstacle courses. Like, I liked climbing stuff, and I jumped down a 30-foot wall. You know what I mean? Other people had to do it too,
Yeah.
but somebody might have thought, you can't do that. Like, I got in trouble from a drill sergeant. She was like, um, they used to call us private, it's like the lowest rank,
Yeah.
like, private, are you switching? I was like, look, she didn't even know what was going on. I just finished obstacle course, and I had to jump down a 6-foot wall, and I was trying to navigate. Was it steps, or did I really have to jump down this thing? Right. So I'm coming to the end. I just was running and jumping over a log, and I'm coming to the end of it, and I was slowing down. So I wasn't paying attention to how I was walking. I just was in my regular stride. And she's like, "Are you switching in uniform?" I was like, "No, drill sergeant, I'm just trying to get down this wall." So my head wasn't there. I was just being myself. And then, stuff
Yeah.
like that would just happen. It was so funny. But, I still was me. But I would do stuff just like I would a glitter if we was going we were going to do zip lining and, riding horses. And I got all that glitter on my horse. My horse was sparkly. When I got off of my horse, oh my goodness. But yeah, so
Oh my
it's
God, it
funny.
was so pretty. It was so pretty. That horse was dressed to the nines. And my favorite part was like the horse helpers that were there, like
Yeah.
touring us and like
Yeah.
coming and helping us. And like there was this one moment where I was right behind you, and like I don't remember what it was, but like I think there was a girl that was behind you, and then she was trying to like clear her horse, except I don't think she necessarily got permission to clear her horse when she cleared it, and the horse reacted and spooked your horse, and then yours like kind of bucked and then started to go
going.
off with you. And then here's this sparkly glitter pouch just whoop, 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 like whatever, and you're just like, no. And the guy came in like a superhero, like classic horse, like country, like you mean you were 2 seconds for getting the lasso and like pulled
It was so funny.
And
the guy was like,
oh,
squeeze your legs.
It's like
the guy said, squeeze your legs.
Yeah,
and
he was like, squeeze your legs, squeeze your
It was so funny because I was like, I'm not falling off. I'm not falling off. I'm not falling off. I was holding on for dear life.
Oh yeah, you had that like a boss. It was too funny. But my favorite was like how just seeing the men, like when you came in all of your dress to the nines, like I'm gonna wear what I wear. And what I loved about your confidence so much was because, you know, like this is a retreat. So there's a lot of women that are feeling vulnerable. They're dealing with their emotions. They're dealing with what they're wanting to let go of. You know, we had a lot of grief being released at that retreat. But what I thought was really beautiful was that you lived by a standard that you wanted to live by, and you did not project it out onto anybody else. You are just, and if anyone said, why are you so dressed up? Which some people could hear that as like a judgment statement or a, you know, like some kind of, and you're just like, because I like to look pretty and this is pretty. It was a, you know, it like you were like, I'm all about how I'm dressing is how I'm feeling. And you really embodied representing yourself, your preferences, your wants, your needs, and being confident to stand in your own skin with that. And like, even in a place where, you know, most people are just, you know, like they're barely even, they just walked out of a waterfall. So half of them are soaking wet with droopy hair all over the place. And you're just like, I just want to be pretty on my horse. Like,
oh my goodness.
So
it was so funny because I mean, it was sparkles everywhere. So that's a memory that I still remember. And I felt like I spread the sparkle, you know what I mean? So if people can remember something about me, that's kind of how I am. You know, like I want to spread the sparkle, like I want to leave an impression, but it be a good one, not, you know, like a bad taste in somebody's mouth, like, oh, she was rude or she was messed up. You know, it's like spread the sparkle.
No one
can
ever say that about you. no one can ever say that about you. You definitely spread the sparkle, that's for sure. So, you know, I want to kind of like go into, you know, after you got out of the service, you know, that's where some of the like the rearing the ugly head comes in to play, where you actually really have to do with the aftermath of what does life look like for you? Where are things going? You've faced some major hardships in, you know, upon leaving the service and getting divorced and losing a child, like, you know, all of the different aspects of that. Would you mind sharing a little bit of some of the controversy and chaos that kind of followed you after?
No problem.
Afterwards?
Sure. So initially when I went into the military, I went into the reserves. So I was 19 when I first went in. And then I was with the unit for about 2 years and then did inactive ready reserve time, right? So that wasn't drilling, wasn't any, you know, unit for, you know, any period of time. But then I re-enlisted and went active duty. And that was like in 2006. So I was stationed in Texas, and then I was deployed to South Korea, and that was like after being in Fort Hood for about 2 years or so, like 2.5 years. I deployed to South Korea, and once I got there, I was finishing my associate's degree. I was taking classes online to finish my degree, and I was almost done. And I had gotten pregnant. I found out I was pregnant, and then literally a few days later, I got a call from the States saying my father had died from pneumonia.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like bleeding some. Sorry to be graphic, but I
No, it's fine. You're
had to
here.
okay, I had to go to the hospital to get cleared before I could even fly, because the flight
Right.
is really long and everything, and they didn't want me to miscarry on the plane. So I was in the hospital for about maybe 3 days. It could have been 3 or 4 days. Um, but they released me. They made sure, like, and this was a Korean hospital, and the South Korean hospital,
They're
and they
way
took good,
strict. Oh yeah.
but they took good care of me. And they had the coolest toilet. Oh my gosh, it heated up and everything. I was like, whoa, I need one of these at home. That was that was
My
memorable.
daughters my daughters all like right now brainwashing me into the K-pop and the K-dramas and like just watching just the different way that they live a little bit. And it's like my favorite part of the K-drama is like as soon as someone like trips, we need to go to the hospital.
Oh,
Like if somebody's got a scratch, it's like, oh, you need ointment. Like immediately.
um,
And they're very high care, like anytime
yeah,
something just even minuscule a bruise and they're like ointment, like we have to put ointment
yeah.
on that because yeah, so they're very um
They were very
we like
caring.
we're ours. Yes, very affectionate, very caring,
Hmm.
very supportive, and in our hospitals, you could be hitting the button for a long ass time, and they're just like, ugh, like,
You gotta wait.
oh, night
Can you
day.
wait, please? That's a shame, but it was the way it was. And they took care of me
Yeah.
for a few days. They made sure my levels were increasing. And then I was released to go ahead and fly for emergency leave.
Okay.
So, of course, that was a sad time, right? And my dad, he was healthy most of his life. I don't really remember a lot of times that my dad called out of work or had a cold, anything like that. But this thing, it was supposed to be like the flu, and then they didn't do an X-ray.
Right.
So it was like a flu that wouldn't go away type thing, but it was really pneumonia, and that's what he ended up passing from. But at the end of the day, like I went to that, and then I was already pregnant. So, what I should have done is gone back to Fort Hood because we had rear detachment, and I asked,
Mm,
could I do that, and I was told that I needed to come back or I would be considered AWOL. But the thing was, that was
mm,
only by like my one higher up. It wasn't like my first sergeant or my company commander. My company commander was on emergency leave. My and I once I got back, I found out the first sergeant he was in some of his own trouble. So people weren't
mm.
communicating like that because right. So I was like, well, I don't want to be AWOL, but what I really should have been able to do is go to Fort Hood so I wouldn't have to keep going back and forth while I was pregnant. However, I went back to South Korea and I went all the way to 5.5 months. And then I was already in ACUs. It was a big controversy. ACUs are the uniform. So
Okay.
I had pregnancy uniform. They have to issue you that and they have to sign off on it. My unit wasn't reporting me as pregnant or anything. So the brigade and the battalion didn't know. The higher ups didn't know. And so when
Wow.
my battalion commander found out, he was like, oh my gosh, like we are gonna have to get you back and soon because I shouldn't have still been over there. But I might not have
Right.
gone that far in my pregnancy. I've had other miscarriages. When I was married, I had miscarriages, but we had never really tried. It was sort of like when I came back from training, I got pregnant, and it was like I hadn't been taking birth control. So, and I was
Right.
19 and 21 when I had those. So I was like, when I found out, it was like, I'm keeping my child, because the father ended up telling me while I was in the hospital, I don't think we should have it. I was like, that's not an option for me. I don't know what you're talking about. So we're
Yeah, the fact
grown.
that I ended up pregnant after having multiple miscarriages, you bet your
Yeah,
ass I'm
like,
gonna keep
dude,
whatever I got, like, regardless,
exactly.
like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was
And
it was just not an
and
option
guess
for
what?
me at all. And I thought
Well,
that
and
was
a lot
very
of people don't
insensitive.
even realize how common like miscarriages are very common, and
Mhm.
sometimes they even have them with people have them without even knowing that it was even a
Exactly.
miscarriage, right? It's just like
Exactly.
they were late, and it just
Mhm.
never formed. But
Yes.
as soon as the numbers change, as soon as it's a viable source, it's like, oh shit, no, there's a purpose, there's a reason. Like I am a
Right, right.
firm believer of everything happens for a reason, even though we don't fully understand it. Like even my daughter, she is a full-fledged birth control baby. There was a 4% chance of her existence. And
And
like,
then she
and I
just
am a
pushed through
very
it.
type A. I am a very type A, like take my birth control like on time and boom, she was coming. And sure as shit, her personality is exactly the same. She's like, I'm here whether you're ready to deal with me or not. Like, let's go. And she is a force. Like it's just, and it's like, but at the same time, it's like I still was in shock and disbelief because I was like, how did this happen? And there were extenuating circumstances where, my husband, not necessarily like there was like he's the first kind of not white person in the family, and he comes from more of a lower income, and so there was some issues in some of that, like where the wedding was coming up, and then my grandfather said to me, let's just see how things go, and that just crushed me, my spirit. And I really think God had a plan that he's like, no, this is your person, this is how they will accept you. Like like just everything kind of snowballed into this unexpected turn. I took 7 pregnancy tests in 24 hours.
Oh
And
my
I was like,
goodness.
yeah, I was like, no, you're kidding. Let's take another one. No, that's not true. I'm going to sleep this off. Let's take another one in the morning. I mean, like, it
Wow.
was even positive at nighttime when you're technically supposed to wait till the morning because that's when you're at, no, it didn't matter what type of day. I was just like in shock. Like, but I mean,
Mhm.
and the thing is I would never change it for any other way. It needed to
Right.
happen that way. So,
Yeah.
so go ahead, continue. So you're keeping your baby, and everyone else can fuck off.
Well, in layman's terms. But
Yeah.
so yeah, like I mean, I was sort of very apprehensive because of what I went through previously initially, but when I got back home and went to my dad's funeral, I didn't tell anybody but my immediate family, meaning like my
Right.
sister, my mom, my brother, like they knew, but nobody else. I didn't tell anybody else. I wasn't showing, you couldn't see. So anyway, when I got back to Korea, I um I just was going on with my pregnancy and I had to be on bed rest at sometimes. They had I went through a lot. Like it was like I had a low lining placenta, my blood pressure was getting up high, but I was still making it and the baby was just fine every time. Every time. She was just okay. And I had found out, that she was a girl from the American doctors because the Korean doctors they don't give you the sex of the baby. Abortion is illegal. So it's like
Mhm.
they don't want people to pick and choose with child and do all this stuff. So I didn't find out from them. I found out from the other place. But at the end of the day, I went through so much to get that far. And then I was cleared to fly once they finally found out and everything. And they were like, oh, we got to get you back. So I was like,
Right.
okay. And um, I got on the flight and I started swelling up really bad. I had went from South Korea to Japan and then from Japan to Texas. And that flight was like 14 hours. So I wish that I
Ouch.
could have gotten in a seat where I was laying back because I was just sitting up and I already had this low lying placenta. So that meant that
Right.
it would tear from the second and come back. So anyway, I started swelling up real bad. And then when I went to the bathroom, I felt like I kept on having to pee. Like I kept on having that urgency.
Yeah.
That happened for like 4 days. Like every time I would pee, it just seemed like it was like really long. So I was like, what is going on? I had no idea that that my baby sack must have busted like slightly, like a pinch, because by
Wow.
the time, like, I landed on Thursday. By the time Monday came, a little bit of blood started coming, and I had been walking around not knowing what was going on. I was like, I had called my mom and was like, Mom, like, it just seems like I have a little extra fluid. It just seems like I'm peeing too long. I don't know what's going on. And she was like, well, if it doesn't get better, like, take a nap or whatever. If it doesn't get better by the next day, then you should just go to the hospital. When I went
Right.
to wipe myself, I started seeing blood. So I went, called the ambulance. They took me, and they said that part of the baby sac was in the birth canal already. And then they had to test it for amniotic fluid, and they said, yeah, it's amniotic fluid in there, and you're going to deliver within 24 hours. I was like,
Oh my
what?
God. And you
So
were at 5.5, 6 months?
almost 6 months. Like, I was like at, like, right by, like, 21 and a half weeks. So
Yeah. So for our listeners that aren't really fully aware, like gestation is between that 37 and 40 week or 40-month 40-week term. I'm already
yeah,
mixing up my weeks versus months. But viability for lung solidification happens at week 34. So between week 34 to 35, that is when the baby gets to term. And it's now week 24 is actually where like solidified potential of survival is
right.
higher as soon as you hit week 34. That even if your lungs haven't solidified and other things hadn't come into play, but if you make it to week 24, that is really where, like preemies have a higher percent success rate. But
Yeah.
anything before that is a crapshoot, a complete
Hmm.
crapshoot. And it's like, it is absolutely terrifying. They're still so small, so tiny.
Hmm.
Like so much of their pound, like they grow a pound per week towards the end. So it's
Yeah.
like most of their weight doesn't even shift until then. And if you're really thinking of 21, that's not even the size of an avocado, I don't think.
Well, she was like 1 pound and 12 inches. And
Wow.
the thing about her is that I asked the neonatal doctors, could they come back and see her? Like, because every
Hmm.
situation is different, but they said she probably won't come out alive. And they said she wouldn't breathe, she wouldn't open her eyes, she wouldn't be crying, um, if she
No,
comes out
because she
alive.
didn't have because the
Her
crying
lung
is connected
capacity.
to their lung capacity, and
Right.
that's 34 weeks. Like that's where a lot of the nerve endings are really getting connected and brainwave links and all the different things. And it is quite like just the cells like it's like quadruple million multiply with every single week in the
Yeah.
process of a growth of a baby. Like and some people will use the term fetus, and I hate when people use I do understand, like, okay, you're in gestation, and but to refer to a living source that's in the process
Yeah,
of growth.
it's a baby. I wasn't pregnant with a
It's a
kangaroo.
baby.
I was pregnant with a
Yes.
child. So
Yes,
yeah,
it is a freaking baby.
yeah, it wasn't, it wasn't like a cow. So I was pregnant
No.
with a child. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like, the
exactly.
people don't want to say that, but that's what it is. If it's an
No, but
embryo,
I
it's
think they do.
of a
Do you think
human.
they do
You know?
that? Do you think they do that to desensitize the emotional connection so that it's
Right.
not so in your face aggressive? Because, like I really think they do that as like minimalizing the emotion. Like I remember there was, we've been dealing with my husband's PTSD stuff for the last, like with disability for the last couple weeks. And, there was an incident where I was like, do you want to see pictures? And they, like, when we were submitting for disability review, and I was like, okay, what all documents do you need? Do you want me to submit pictures? And they just looked at me like, oh no, ma'am, we don't need pictures. And I was kind of like, why? You don't want to see what you created and what's been going on? Like, because I kind of really want to put the pictures on there so that you guys learn to wake the fuck up. Like, like sometimes it's like people cannot handle like it being in their face. And so they
Right.
can't handle the emotional turmoil. And a lot of times people don't necessarily know what to do or what to say because they don't want to be offensive, but at the same time, they don't, like humans are usually pretty curious and they want to know details, but then they don't necessarily know how to have these open conversations.
Right.
And my whole philosophy is like, if we don't talk about this stuff, then it's harder for someone else to come forward when they're dealing with it on their own. And if
Right.
we're supposed to be creating an environment to support and be there for one another and carry each other through with our, like you do that through sharing and stories and experiences. And it, it, as much as it's hurtful and painful, it also can be very therapeutic and very uplifting to be able to speak into our experiences.
Yeah. And for me, like they told me they would just give me time to bond with my child because I wasn't at 23 weeks and what you talked
Right.
about. Um, and they said by law they don't have to resuscitate my child if she stopped breathing, and if they put her on a ventilator, that she was so small that some of the tubes wouldn't go in her. Da, 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 da. And
Yeah.
so for me, this was my first time getting this far in my pregnancy. I still was in shock. Really, like, is all of this really happening right now? And the thing
Right.
was, I didn't give up hope. I just said, like, come see my child. I don't care what other people have dealt with. She's gonna be different. And she sure enough was. She came out kicking, and her heartbeat was like 100 and something, like 170. It was high, it was regular. And I
That's
was like,
actually healthy. That's a very healthy baby.
exactly. That's why
Yeah.
I was like, she's small, but give her a chance. Like, give her oxygen, do something. The neonatal doctors
Yeah.
would not come back. They have wrote her off already. And I said to myself, because I was going to name her Miracle, I said, I'm going to keep her name if she comes out alive, because they're counting her out before she even gets here, and I'm still having hope.
Yeah.
My child lived 3 hours and 16 minutes, and they put they must have known that they were doing something wrong, because on the hospital's paperwork they put like an hour and something, but on her death certificate they put the proper amount of time, because they let me hold my child. And I got people, I said, take pictures, because this is, it's too much. I need to at
We want
least show that she was
documentation. We
here.
want to make sure everybody knows. Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Girl.
then the lady, she lived so long that the lady had to go put regular clothes on her. I was like, yeah, wipe her off and everything, but her heartbeat dropped every time she wasn't with me. What I did was I was breathing on
Right.
her. So if they had given her oxygen, she would have lived longer. She was one of those,
Yeah.
that could have made it. Like, everybody's not the same.
Yeah.
So anyway, when she passed, it was just very devastating. I went to a dark place after that, because I already had my dad pass. And
Absolutely.
that was 4 months before time, mind you. And then when my daughter passed, I was trying to contemplate whether I was going to stay in the military and continue serving this country, even though I felt disappointed by how I was treated while I was still in the uniform.
Right.
All of these people were in the room that outranked me. They were like, colonel, captain, you know what I'm saying? I was an E4 specialist in the Army. And so it's like, I called the White House and asked them, what should I do? Like, they're not going to help me or help my child. What should I do? They told me that you should call the cops. And I was like, well, what are they going to do? Send me to another hospital? Like, I'm already in the hospital. So I really felt like I didn't know who to turn from, and then who to turn to. And when it was all over, they were like, you can write, complaints to the hospital. You could go to the medical IG, which is the inspector general. You could go to regular inspector general. You could get a congressional investigation. I said, I have to plan my child's funeral. I don't want to go to
Right.
all these people and complain to them about, they should have helped. They should have done something. Somebody could have
Right.
done more. At the end of the day, I had to plan a funeral, and I told them I do not want her cremated. Keep my baby. And I picked out
Yeah.
a casket. I did all of that. And while I was on maternity leave, I decided I'm going to go ahead and get out. because I had re-enlisted while I was in Korea before I found out I was pregnant. And so they would have to put me on a chapter, which even though like I was supposed to get out in June normally, I ended up getting out in July.
Right.
So I fulfilled all of the time that I owed the military. I fulfilled it. And so
Yeah.
but on my DD-214, it says I had to look up the FM where it says like if someone had a miscarriage or someone had an early term birth or a stillbirth, it was a certain clause that you could be put under, and that's what's on my DD-214. But I had to look it up, and I brought it to
Yeah.
the commander, and she checked it out. And I said, because I want a stage left at this point. And the thing was that I was depressed. I was down. I had so much traumatic stress. I had so many things that were going through my head. I was like, I wanted a support group. I asked, do they have one? Do they have some kind of counselor I could talk to? And it's like, some of the behavioral specialists on a military base, they were like, if they talk about PTSD or something, or talk about certain stuff, they're talking about from war or things like that. It
Yeah.
wasn't a sensitivity at
Are
all.
you kidding me?
It
I
was no
cannot
resources.
even begin. I cannot even begin to tell you the frustrations I have with that. The questionnaires that they ask you when you guys are experiencing PTSD of any kind, doesn't matter what the source is,
Right,
okay? And
right.
just by the way, for our listeners, fucking basic training itself can cause PTSD alone.
Exactly.
Just the onboarding
Alone.
process of being a
Exactly.
soldier can cause PTSD because
Right.
it's so like it is so intensive. But the thing
Yeah.
that bothers me the most is that these psychiatrists and the most of the people that like my husband has been to have to go see, and the way that they ask the questions, they're
Mhm.
usually always they're setting up the soldier to have it semi genetically connected, which, no offense, but this is fucking insulting to our servicemen because you're
Yeah.
constantly trying to paint them as depressed, bipolar, some kind of mental illness, to
Right. And
which
it's not.
most of it is all triggered from the experience to which they had. And then the worst part is that they don't consider it PTSD until you like blew off your leg or something in combat, right? Like they don't even consider like PTSD until there is like a definitive event. Like they're looking for a specific event that caused it. And it's like the of all the things. Number one, you guys are trained to completely push through all of the pain, all the same. You guys are trained to completely eliminate self-awareness to your body doesn't even know when it's in fight or flight mode, so that what ends up happening and transpiring after is, hey, I have no sensory of fight or flight mode. I have no sensory of when I'm in high stress. I'm just going to keep being a machine until I basically die or have a heart attack and my body taps out. And because of that type of training, it stays with you into your adult years. And so when you guys have a form of inflammation or hypertension or being uncomfortable, like you guys don't have, it's like your body either has a panic attack and a PTSD episode or some kind of freaking mental breakdown before you guys can even like be seen. And then what's worse is that some of the trauma reaction that you guys use for coping skills, because you weren't taught coping skills when you were in the service. You guys don't have languaging for emotions because you were taught to shove those down all the way. And then you don't have a language for it. So then we're trying to communicate. I mean, like you guys go in to say, hey, please take care of me because I'm like struggling. I
Right.
sacrificed my life for your country.
Right.
And now I'm struggling because of it. And then it's like they hand you a stack of freaking things of opportunities and like, oh, we have this. You guys can barely like some PTSD people, they get to a point where they can't even handle a daily schedule. Like some of them can't even get out of bed or they can't even hold a job. Like there's so many different
Mhm.
variations of it, which is why there's a percentage difference. And
Yeah.
just some of the conversations I've had with doctors and even behavioral health directors, I am like, no, our people deserve better than that. And the fact that
Right.
I know what I know in medical because I've been dealing with health related things for my entire career, And then when I go in and have conversations with doctors, they're almost trying to tell me no. And I'm like, oh, hell freaking no. Like, don't even try. You cannot explain to me how my husband's blood work literally changed within 1 month is a completely different person. And it was
Right.
like, it's completely proven, but yet they go into this denial because they don't want to take responsibility and they don't want to have to pay. And so
Right.
it ends up being this awful thing. And I'm just like, our people deserve better, but they do, like you can contact the senators and do and have like an investigation. But the problem is that they're so good at dotting their I's and their T's, and they pass the buck off
Yeah.
from one person to the next, then the investigation doesn't even go anywhere. And like you could provide
So,
awareness, but I'm like, I don't know how else to get attention.
so what I will say is that, yeah, investigations could go somewhere, they could do something, but when it comes to life or death and somebody is gone,
Yeah.
nobody is bringing that person back. So at the end of the day, me as a human being, I had feelings. I never was brainwashed.
Right.
I was a good soldier, but I never was brainwashed. I never was a person that, understood and respected authority. However, I always
Hmm.
thought for myself. And even I had some sergeants tell me that you should be an officer. And that's what I was going to do because I was getting everything aligned for me to, finish school, which I did. And then I was doing something, it's called a GT score. It's like you need a certain score from your ASVAB or whatever. And once you get that score,
Yeah.
then you can then apply for officer candidate school, or there was a program called Green to Gold, and you could go from enlisted to being a commissioned officer. And I was thinking about all those things before I got pregnant, and so that really changed my
Yeah.
life. But I wouldn't change it for the world because I do have feelings. I am a human being. I do have emotions, and what I learned to do is to reach out when I need help and to process my stuff. And it took after that, I was able to get a closer relationship with God. I reached out to this group that was referred once I became a veteran, and it was for mothers who have lost their children. And I
Okay.
went to that, and then I went to a grief group, and then I asked for one-on-ones without other people being judgmental about your loss. Like, well, what about quality of life and da-da-da? Like, I didn't ask you. I didn't
Right.
ask you, how you felt about my child passing because I'm the one that had to carry her and I'm the one that buried her and now she's not here. You didn't deal with that. I did.
Right.
So at the end of the day, some people want to put their 2 cents in, and it can make you spiral. But for me, I just handled things how they were, and I didn't want to wait too long for me not to get assistance, like, or get some kind of help. And
Yeah.
later on,
Which
then
saved your life. I mean, just the fact that you had the courage to be able to voice what you were needing, the courage to be able to verbalize that, that in itself is transcendent. Like you're such a rare bird that you have always been able to kind of cut through and be able to see and know what was in alignment for you, or your preferences were, what you were doing, and be
like you're
really
cutting out.
transformed the
Okay.
path to which oh, I'm sorry. But I feel like you have done so many great, even with all of this chaos and all of this experience, because you've had that courage to step into what you were needing. But more importantly, because of doing so, it really changed the nature of how you showed up in your life and also the impact that you wanted to make in the world. Like there's so much gratitude that I have towards your just existence and what you've been through, because it really has made you, really see, what do I want to do? How do I want to affect people around me? How do I want to impact the world? And
Right.
what kind of awareness do I want to set into? What are some of the things that you've been working on? I'd really like for you to share with
Okay.
people you know, what you've been really trying to mold all of this into something golden and creating something beautiful.
So I'll go back to where, like, in 2009, this is when I got out of the military. And then when I got out, I went and got my bachelor's, right? And while I was
Mhm.
doing that in 2011, my mom passed. So I had them like back, right? So I went and sought, that's when I went and sought the grief group, all that stuff. But what has happened in between that time, I want to say, to God be the glory, he kept me, because I know other people have, people believe what they believe, but I know that the spirit of the living God helped me not to give up on myself. And one of my mottos is quitting is not an option. And what I had to do was dig deep. And I had to learn more things about myself, right? And what happened in warp speed ahead to more recent in 2022, I hadn't remarried and didn't have a child. I met a guy and he wanted to have a child too. We tried, even went through IVF. Now in the military,
Wow.
the VA would pay for me to get IVF, but I have to be married, and I wasn't married. And so I was doing things outside of that. I was asking God for his permissible will, because I'm like, I'm getting older. What's going to happen? I want to try to have a child. And I ended up getting pregnant with twin boys. And then I only went to 9 weeks. I never went
Mm.
past 9 weeks in the States with my child. So I don't know what kind of water or what stuff they have in South Korea, but my baby was staying. But but this time, no. And it brought me right back to when I lost my daughter. And I had waited almost like 13 years to even try again. And that brought back all those feelings, all the trauma that I left behind, that I was healing from, that I, got deliverance from. Like, I was like moving forward. That
Right.
brought me right back to then. And then I had to seek counseling. I had a great counselor with the VA. So I don't want you to think that it's all bad. You just have to have the right person
Oh,
for you.
we have a
And
tremendous couples therapist. Like we
good.
got matched up. Like, I mean, we got they ended up using, like, they use the community care, so they
Yes,
reference
yeah.
to
So you can
civilian
go out.
doctors so that you can have
Mhm.
reference and have it closer to you. And in me and the kids, we do our equine therapy. So we do horse therapy for us
Oh, nice.
individually,
Nice,
and
nice.
that has been transcended. And there's been amazing groups, but it's like it's like some of the way, like, there are people that slip through the cracks that they really miss the bar on, and it's like, and those stories are the ones that I really feel compassionate about. And I don't necessarily know what to do with it yet, but I do know that there's something there, and it may not even be for me to do anything. It might even be for my husband's, like, his experience, his journey, and part of his purpose. So, but it is interesting, because it, like, you can get really, really, really great people that help and transform you. And our couples has gotten through to him more than anybody, like, any group has gotten him. So it's we're very thankful for her, and we're very thankful for my friends that are our chiropractor, are my functional medicine practitioner, Audra. She's helped keep him like tape glue together. And then, of
Good,
course,
good.
I have to give all full credit to our dog Presley, because if it wasn't for that dog, I don't know what would happen.
I might have
So
to get me a dog one of these days. I might need one. They're so
yes,
cute,
they are
and
so
they're
cute, and I
helpful.
cannot. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get my husband a service dog, because he so needs one. I mean, and
Yeah.
Presley has been more of his emotional support animal, and he has just
Hmm.
been like, just I mean, he heals all of us in the house. He's just so fantastic. So go ahead, continue. I want to
Okay.
I want to finish
Okay.
up before
So
we
let
have
me let me get to now, right? So I went through
okay.
that counseling, and that was like most of 2023. Yeah. So for like immediately after that miscarriage, it was just like, oh, like I said, it worked me back to that time. And so I was like, I need to
Yeah.
heal. I need to, I need to deal with this. And so I was able to see a few, other doctors and stuff, and people say what they wanted to say, but I talked to one doctor, then I was referred to someone else because I was really going through it. And I'm a person that wants to process my stuff. I don't want it to fester. I don't want it to kill me.
Right.
I'm like, I know I need some
Right.
kind of help and help me organize my thoughts and get back to me. And so what I've done
Right.
is I took a stress relief coaching uh, program, and I had started it right before I got pregnant. I totally put that down for years. And then I went back and finished last year once I had gotten back to feeling like me again, at least a little bit.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah,
That's
so I finished that, and they taught me so much about the things that we need to know, like how to manage certain stress and how you're not abnormal for having it. It's just you need to process it. You need to get through it. You need to understand that, when you're having chronic stress, what does that mean, and how you can have it for so long you think that this is normal, like when you were talking about fight or
yeah.
flight, and you have to understand where you are. And I don't have a personality disorder. I've dealt with extreme amounts of trauma and stress. So, it's
Right.
not just the things with the baby things or my parents. Like, I've dealt with divorce, I've dealt with some domestic violence, I've dealt with, sexual assault. And I talk about all of these things in my book called Blessed in the Midst of the Storm. Like, I wrote that after I had
Great
gotten
title,
out.
by the way.
Thank you. And it was so many things that I went through, but what I wanted to do was, as I started to mature in my faith, I wanted to look at things from godly principles and not let
Mm-hmm.
fear or of moving forward or trying different stuff to take over, and exchange that for faith. You know what I mean? It's different stuff, looking at
Yeah.
the negative and trying to look at go to the positive, and actually healing and becoming whole. Now, it took me to go through all of this extra stuff, and then you have to file all of these different claims for the military. And it's like, but they're going to give you stuff for what happened while you were in the military. So while I'm on this journey moving
Right.
forward,
Because it always
you
has to
know,
be service connected. Yeah, it always has to be service connected,
exactly.
and you can still, and I do appreciate that there's ways for veterans to be able to still receive help and counseling, even for their own personal things.
Right.
Like there's resources without like it affecting disability percentage. Like they still have ways to help and
Yeah.
assist. And so I do appreciate that because that is transcendent because, just off of dealing with life in general, but it is like they have to seek out. If you don't seek out, it just doesn't get done. And that is part of self-care. That's a part of
Yes.
a self-care practice that a lot of us, like you and I both, are trying to provide awareness to people in
Exactly.
making sure that their process going through, they have awareness of where it's laying on their body, some of those traumas, how it causes a behavioral reaction. There's
Mhm.
so many different components to it. And please say the title of your book again so people can go out and
Oh,
find it.
okay. It's on Amazon. Should be Blessed in the Midst of the Storm by me, Monique Lynelle. There is another
Mhm.
author that I think hers is poetry, and we have that same title, but mine is totally different, and it's looking at
Yeah.
things with through with God's godly principles, like the
Yeah.
trials and the struggles you go through. But what the one thing I
And
want to say is that now, like, I was working at my last job. I was at NASA. I was a government contractor, and I almost 8 years I was there, and I needed to get a sit down job because I have back issues. I have
Mhm.
arthritis in my back and my knees, and I have shoulder issues. So me doing cosmetology would be a little bit taxing if I went back to that. And so
Mhm.
I was like, let me get a sit down job. So that was a blessing. But last year they did away with my contract. They didn't renew it. And so since I wasn't working, I was like, well, Lord, what do you want me to do? I want to be in alignment for my assignment in life, right? So now what I'm doing is, while I was on my journey, like looking for jobs and stuff on unemployment, while I was trying to like build my business stuff, I found this like this advertisement or advertisement for a volunteer for this this group, and it's called Missing Pieces Support Group. And now I've talked to one of the co-founders and everything. I've become a facilitator for that group, and we had already
Very
started
cool.
sessions,
That's great.
and it's to help women and men, but the women, speak to the women and the men speak to the men. Um, but it's to help people that have dealt with miscarriage or early term birth or stillbirth. And it's, helping people have the coping mechanisms, feel supported and heard. And everybody has different stories. And I feel like it's a part of my purpose. Like, I really feel like it
Yeah.
totally aligns. I've joined new church, and I didn't know that I was going to be doing this, but they wanted people to host a group, and I put in for that to talk about my book. And it's really not about my book. It's about the things that we all deal with, like dealing with
Right.
loss and the stress and the different stuff, and how we look at it, and how, we're going to cope with our stuff, how we're going to manage our stress, how do we get over these things or get delivered from these things. And so
Right.
I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I still have things to do. I still need to
Right.
be speaking to more, because healing is important, because not only veterans but other people are giving up in this world. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are suicidal because they can't find
Mhm.
they can't find a way to have hope, and they feel helpless. And a lot of times other people aren't that helpful. They're insensitive, and they're jerks towards your issues, and they want you to just deal with your
Yeah, they
stuff.
have a
And it's
tendency to they should people, and they direct them into, you need to do this, or you should be
mhm,
doing this, and it's like, you're not,
mhm,
and they're not listening, and they're not understanding that just because that might work for them doesn't mean it works for the individual they're speaking to. And it
exactly.
just ends up there. And then there's a lot of judgment and expectation that are wrapped into that, and it's like, no, sometimes when you're having a bad day, it's okay to step back and do nothing and honor what you need in that moment, whether it's breathing, whether it's walking, whether it's just vegging on the couch, or even just journaling. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, it's about learning those practices. And I love the fact that you do that. How what is a message that you could leave with the listeners today that, you know, I know you already said that you don't quit. Like, we already know
Right.
you don't quit because you're a fighter.
I'm still
I'm not
here.
gonna mess with I'm not gonna mess with anybody on sequence on a horse ever. Like, I know what you can do. But what is something that we could tell the audience on, like, messages to live by? Before we dive in, did you guys know that we have gift cards for your loved ones? At Capital Health, we pride ourselves in taking care of our people and figured you should too. But sometimes it's a little awkward purchasing that special someone an exercise program to help them tone up their muffin top, or giving them a nutrition consultation to help them get their eating under control. No need to stress. Let the Capital Health gift card handle that for you, and let your special someone choose what they need for their health and wellness needs.
Okay, so a takeaway would be that, for one, self-care is important, and um taking some things day by day is really, sometimes moment by moment. That's what you have to
Mhm.
do. And just learning how to slow yourself down and breathe and pause sometimes in your life. You might have to take a break. It doesn't mean that you're quitting totally. It
Yeah.
just means that you're giving yourself
You're
that grace
recouping.
and the space to
Yeah.
exactly to
Yeah.
reset, to recoup, renew, and refresh yourself. And that's something that I'm learning to do, is to try to have fun. I have some coping mechanisms that somebody else might want to use. I've taken up doing line dancing. I really, really love it. I
Nice.
really like it a lot. It's so fun, and
That's
you get out
awesome.
of your head because you have to
Yeah.
learn the steps.
Movement
You don't have
and flow. Travel between body
exactly. You don't
and mind.
have exactly. You don't have the space to like just be in your head and think about all the things
Right.
that are going on in life. You have to learn the steps. So that's something that I've picked up and I like. I've started roller skating again. I need to go
Oh,
again
I
very
love
soon.
that. I
Yeah.
totally miss those days. Yay.
it's it's really fun, and you get to move, and you're exercising, but you don't feel like it. It's
Yeah.
like I'm working on my turns. I'm trying to get my backwards. I could go backwards a little bit. I can go my
Yeah.
forward.
I
Forward,
love
I'm
that. That's
good.
awesome.
Yeah, and so other things like I want to incorporate like different exercise, but I've also been not journaling but writing in a devotional.
Mhm.
I've been praying, and then I try to do, some positive things, like I'm volunteering at, my
Doing
local
something
church.
outside of yourself to do things for
Exactly,
other
to
people,
give
which I
back.
absolutely love. So, sweetie, we are gonna have to like head out. So I just want to make sure everybody knows, how can they get in touch with you? How can they find you?
Okay, so I have a website, and it's Monique Lynn, and then it's a dash
Okay.
Lell.
Okay.
So my name is already spelled out, but it's the dash in the middle. So it's Monique Lynn, then dash L.com. And on social media, you'll see on Facebook is like at Monique Lynelle, how it's written on the screen. And then you should be able to see the link to the Instagram. Instead of a dash, it's the underscore in between Lynn and
We'll
L.
make sure it's in the description box for everybody below. And then
Okay.
the people that
Yeah.
are driving, at least they can look for it later and at least hear
Yeah.
it in your head right now. I always like to make
Yeah.
sure, like, you never know if someone's watching or just listening, and we definitely don't want any car wrecks out there. So just like, we always gotta
Exactly.
be safe. Well,
Exactly.
thank you so much for being on the show today, lovely. Like, I cannot thank you enough. I couldn't have think of a better person to have on for today. And I love it when we get into our rants. I know that we can make podcast after podcast after podcast together, because that's just how we roll. And it's fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad that I don't tear up like I used to. Oh my gosh, I feel stronger
Oh,
because
yeah.
before I used to I couldn't get through talking about my daughter or talking about this subject matter. And I know that I'm getting stronger and victorious in that. It doesn't mean that you're weak
No.
because you cry, but
No,
I'm
you've got
glad
to
I'm able
process.
to
It was
articulate.
processing. It was processing, and like there was so much layerings. There was layer after layer that was removed, and I got to witness it, be of service and witness to it with you in Costa Rica. And so
Yeah.
I just really appreciate your courage, your strength, and just being your ability to face adversity in all different situations and be able to see something that is grateful and pure and good from the experience, because that is something that a lot of people struggle with. And if we can try and provide that with a lot of people, we get to have that connectivity. So thank you so much for being on, sweetie. We'll see you
You're
next
welcome.
time. We'll have you on again, I promise.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining me today, where we talk about all the things. Join me next Saturday as we focus on being toasted. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and Facebook at Capital Health. That's Kapitol Health. Please share with your friends and family. The Capital Life is available on all podcasting platforms except Pandora. Our goal at The Capital Life is to provide a safe place to get information when it comes to your health and wellness, especially when dealing with all of life's phases. Remember to take care of yourself, because you're somebody's everything.